A good craziness.
Well, good crazy is better than bad crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
we'll take it. And the closer Christmas gets, the crazier things feel, huh?
Yeah, not too bad.
That's good. That's
Yeah, all these people keep saying, it's so crazy and this time's so busy, and I'm like, I love it.
Oh, that's good. That's
Yeah.
awesome. You feeling like you're got
I
your
don't know.
shopping done and all that fun stuff?
Yeah. hmm
Good,
I
good.
don't have a whole lot to do too because of our trip. So
Oh, very fun. Of
yeah,
course, getting ready for a trip can be stressful in and of itself.
yeah, but I'm ready for that too.
Good. That's so awesome. Tell me about that. How are you ready?
uh, Say that again.
How are you ready for your trip?
Oh, I have most things already set aside that I need to take. I can't pack everything, but all my kids have their packing lists, and one of my girls wants to get everything all packed. She's like, "But I need my underwear and I need my t-shirts, and so I can't pack everything, but I want to pack everything."
That's so fun. And what day did you say you're leaving? I'm going to stick it on my calendar so I don't forget.
The 26th, and we'll be back on January 11th.
Okay, let's see. Mitzi on. Okay, awesome. How fun. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Oops. Let's see. I know I'm smart enough to put this in the calendar. Okay, cool. All right, so when we get close to Christmas, we'll figure out where, make sure that we have the right date scheduled, that we know what we're going to do.
Okay.
Okay, good. All right, so tell me about your week. How has it been?
I had a couple of rough patches this
Okay.
last week.
Tell me about it.
So my mother-in-law has decided to stop her treatment.
Okay.
So we went and met with her oncologist, and that was a sad meeting. Said goodbye to
Well, it
him.
doesn't seem like it's really been helping, huh?
Well, it just doesn't feel good, and she just wants to have a quality of life over quantity because she's gonna die within a couple of years. No, really, no matter what. So she'd rather just feel good and enjoy herself rather than feel like crap all the time.
I can't blame her.
Yeah.
I can't blame her. That would be so difficult.
Yeah.
And how are you and your husband taking it?
Um, some days are good and some days are not so good. Um, when we when something happens, I think like this might be the last time she does this or the last time I see her do that. Like we celebrated her 75th birthday yesterday. That might be the last one that we get with her, and this Christmas might be the last one. We just don't know. We could have another one, but she bore her testimony at church yesterday and I just cried. That might be the last time I hear it, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah,
but I
that's
totally
hard.
support her. I know the plan. I know everything will be okay. I know we'll see her. It's just sad.
That's hard. That's sad.
Yeah.
That's sad. Um, how can that be a blessing?
Oh, because I do know that we will see her, and I know there's a reason why she's going. I don't know what it is. I just know there is, and I know it. I trust him, and I know what his plan is, and he needs her. So
How can knowing that this could be the last time, how could that be a blessing?
um, maybe we'll enjoy it more, or we'll really cherish it, or not take things for granted.
It's interesting. You hear stories all the time of, for instance, I have a friend who ended up caring for her mother, and her mom lived next door. And her mom got bad enough, she ended up moving in next door, and her husband lived alone in their house. And she thought, well, this is just temporary, mom's old, and, it's just temporary. And then the husband had a heart attack and died. Right. And the mom outlived him by like 10 years. And, and she had this constant regret of, I didn't appreciate that this couldn't last forever. And I thought that I knew what was going on. And so, of course, if she knew that, she would have done things differently.
Right.
And you think about, we think your mother-in-law is the next to go. We don't even know that. Your son had a heart attack at age 17, for heaven's sakes, right?
Right.
And so, in a way, what a blessing that you can say, you know what, we need to cherish every moment, not just with her, but with each other, and make sure that we keep our priorities where they belong.
Yeah.
And that, in a way, those blessings come along with death, even though it's extremely painful. But they can also be a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. How hard.
And it's made me want to spend more time with my mom too. So that's a blessing.
Yeah, that's so true.
Time with her too.
That is so true. Yeah, I have a feeling we'll all have a lot of regrets when things are over for the way we spent our time, and how we always think people will be there, and we just take that for granted. And then, most of the time we don't get a warning.
Yeah.
That something's going to happen. And I always said if I could choose how I died, I would choose to have something where I had enough of a warning that I could say goodbye, that everybody, it wasn't a shock to people. I could say goodbye, give hugs and kisses, and enjoy those last moments. And so maybe that's a great blessing, even though sometimes it feels like it'd be easier just to be surprised and get it over with.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry you guys are going through this.
Thanks.
That's just painful. Yeah. So tell me, how did that contribute to your difficult times this week?
Well, there was another thing that happened too. So I don't know if I've told you this, but the transport team that took Dawson from Reno to Stanford wasn't not in our network, not a provider. And so we've been fighting with that. We've submitted the first and second level appeals. And then last week we went to a hearing, like an informal hearing with a committee, and got a letter on Friday morning that they are sticking to their original decision and they're not going to pay any more on that. So now we have to go to the next level and hire an attorney, and it's just one more thing that adds to everything else.
Okay. Yeah. So is it mainly financial stress then of that?
Well, no, I mean, we really could pay for it. I mean, that would be a lot of money for us to pay, but we could, but it's just the emotional, thinking about all that again, the time that it's going to take, that, mental, emotional part of it.
Okay.
Just the one more thing to add to everything,
Yeah. It's something else to worry about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so the good news is you just told me you could pay for it if you have to, right? Everything goes downhill, then you'll pay for it and it'll be over and done, right?
Yeah.
So what's the very worst thing that could happen?
Is that we would pay for it and we'd not be able to go on a nice trip instead.
Right. Okay. And if you could go back to the moment of having to call an ambulance.
Yeah, we already talked about that. We talked about that with the appeals committee. We'd do it all over again. Nothing there would change. Yeah. And they all agree. They were so nice. We agree. We all have kids. We understand. We would have done the same thing, but it doesn't change the system, the way things work.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can appreciate that. I mean, but luckily there are, things you can keep looking into, and it's finding that balance between, is it worth paying the lawyer, or are we going to end up paying more in addition to the lawyer? Do you have a good lawyer who can help you for not too much money?
Right.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you got lots of stress going on. Those are big stressful things. And tell me.
Oh, and one more. Sorry.
Of course there's one more. They come in threes, right?
I went to the doctor and she said that I have started menopause, and I guess that's a good thing. Yeah. But I did some blood work and stuff, and so I don't know if that's stressful or
How
if
do you
I'm
feel
okay
about
with
it?
that.
It's stressful based on how you feel about it and on what you think.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I think I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I think I'm still processing,
Okay.
trying to figure
Well,
out what that means.
what are some of the things that you're afraid of with it?
Um, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything to be afraid of.
Well, I can tell you, me and my friends that have been through it, we're all just really happy we're never having a period again.
Yeah, that's what I'm excited about.
My kids are all jealous. I'm like, your time will come. Just trust. Yeah. And, I think the worst part about it for me was just hot flashes. But other than that, it really wasn't a big deal.
Yeah,
I think for most people, it's more the fear of what does this mean and how
yeah,
is my body going to change and that
yeah,
kind of
the
thing.
unknown.
Yeah. I haven't noticed very many differences, a few little things here and there that are not a big deal.
Okay.
But it can add to your stress level, right? To feel like things are changing or things are out of my control,
Yeah.
right? Feeling like with your mom, they're out of your control. With
Hmm.
the paying the ambulance, that's out of your control. With the menopause, that's out of control. So what is in your control? In all those things, what things are in your control?
The way that I feel about them, the way that I react.
Okay. Yeah. So like we talked about the choices you make with your mom, those are totally in your control.
Mhm.
Right? You don't get to choose when she'll die, but you do get to control everything you can do between now and then. If you look at it as a gift, wow, we know that she's going. So we're not going to squander this time that we might have otherwise. If she
Yeah.
were totally healthy right now and still going to die on the same date she's going to die, but if she were totally healthy and fine and doing her thing, how often do you think you would spend time with her and do the things that you're doing now as opposed to what you're doing?
Not as much because I don't with my mom.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we just don't. Just naturally, we don't. It doesn't make us horrible people, but that's just how it is, right? And what kind of things are you in control of with the ambulance situation?
Same thing, the way that I feel about it or think about it, and what I want to do about it. What steps I want to take.
Yeah, you have choices. You can hire a lawyer and keep going. You could stop and just pay for it and be done. You could spread those payments out over the next 10 years and make them small. You could chunk it out and never think about it again. So lots of choices still that are
Yeah.
in your control. With menopause, what's in your control there?
Same thing. How I feel about it. Just ask
Yeah.
questions or talk to other people. Or I go back to the doctor for my annual in January, so I can ask more questions there. And she
Mhm.
might know more by then. I don't know.
Good. Yeah. And there's things, a lot of people are worried about what that means for their body. Am I going to gain weight? Does it make it hard to lose weight? Am I going to, it's like
Mhm.
what you eat is totally in your choice of, your realm of choices. How you treat your body is in your realm of choices. Whether you choose to embrace it and love your life is in your choices. Whether you choose to be upset about it and whatever, all in your choices. Right. So I think that's really good because being out of control is the worst feeling ever.
Mhm.
And then we turn to food to give us some sense of numbing about that. I
Yeah.
feel like we have control over that. So how was your let me get on the right page in the book. How was, we talked about um, rejecting the diet mentality last week, right?
Mhm.
And did that affect how you managed your week at all, or what kind of things did you find you were trying to focus on and work on?
Still trying to be aware. Um, am I hungry? If I'm not, is this gonna, help me or fix this? And sometimes it was, well, most of the time it was no, but sometimes it was I'm gonna do it anyway, and other times it was like, okay, I don't need this right now. So
Mm-hmm. And that's
that was
great that
good.
it's your choice.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's nothing to stop you either way. You get to do whatever makes you happiest,
yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So that's great. And sometimes I do that and I realize, that didn't make me happiest. I knew it wouldn't. Why?
Yeah.
why did I do that? But yeah, it's definitely under control. So have you had a chance to read the next chapter about honoring your hunger?
Yep.
What were your thoughts on it before we start?
I don't
Nothing coming to your mind?
specifically, just all
Okay.
those studies and stuff are just so interesting about the deprivation and when we can't have what we wanted. And
Yeah. So, I mean, I love how it starts out with that Keys study with where they took the 32 healthy men. And I love that they really put them through the rigors of making sure that they were, what do they call it? Psychobiological stamina. Which means it was not only they were physically healthy, but they were psychologically healthy people. And there was no dieting back then. At least, these guys didn't have anything to do with dieting. And I thought it was so fascinating to read about how restricting their calories affected them mentally. So fascinating, especially when you look at you. So you look at, and it's called a starving, a study designed to know how to help starving victims. So their definition of starving was to take these men down to, was it 1,500 calories a day? I mean, 1570. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that's what they considered starving, right? For these men. How fascinating is that? That's exactly what modern day diets will put them on. I thought that was just absolutely fascinating. And then to see, let's see. So the first 3 months they ate however they wanted. They just what they normally would, and they averaged 3492 calories. That's a lot of calories. And you think about that's people who are completely healthy, no problems psychologically or physically. And I can see that if my husband eats whatever he wants, I'm surprised sometimes, like, wow, how can you eat that much and not even gain any weight? Right?
Yeah.
And then for 6 months, they go on that diet. They're supposed to lose 19 to 28% of their body fat, which is a lot, especially if you're already at a healthy weight, right?
Yeah.
And then they get 1570. And I just thought it was interesting to see, okay, so I made a little list of what the results were. So their metabolic rate decreased by 40%. And that's exactly consistent with what that study, where they studied the Biggest Loser winners. Yeah, like 40%. That's massive. And that they were obsessed with food. That's the part that I found fascinating because, I've spent my whole life thinking, well, what's wrong with me? Why am I so obsessed with food? Of course, I was obsessed with food. I should say I was obsessed with food before I ever dieted because mine was definitely emotional. But dieting only made it way worse, worse. And then their eating style changed. They would go from, it says, ravenously gulping to stalling out the eating experience. And I thought that was interesting. Did you find, have you found in the past that you've stalled out the eating experience, try to make it last longer?
No, I just eat so fast. That is not in my.
So interesting. For me, the only way I can relate to that is when I had given up on the diet, then I would be gulping and eating as much as I could because I didn't want to think about it. It's like I had to get in as much as I could before the guilt kicked in. But if I was being good and I was sticking with my diet, then I might really stall it out because I don't want it to be over. Like, oh, this is all I get for X more hours. So I want to make sure I take tiny bites and I drink between and I put my fork down and all those kind of dieting rules that they give you for eating. But the interesting thing is they're so similar to what we talk about when we're talking about becoming an intuitive eater. But it's for a completely different purpose.
Yeah.
Right? So how would you explain the difference of purpose to someone?
When you're eating that way because you want to stall, it's because you are in that that deprivation stage. So you don't know if it's going to be there, so you want to make it last.
Yes, definitely. And when you're doing intuitive eating, how is it different?
Then you just want to slow down so you can pay attention to your body and your signals and what your body's telling you, and enjoying each and every bite.
Yeah. See, for me, that's the key. Is the difference is I only get this much, and I'm feeling like, okay, I got to make it last, or I want to make sure I enjoy this.
Yeah.
Because when I'm snarfing, I don't taste anything.
Yeah.
And the great thing is when you're eating slow like that, there is no rule that you have to stop at some certain point. You're just making sure that you've enjoyed it to the maximum. And when your body says, not enjoying this so much, then it's easy to stop because you're not enjoying it so much.
Yeah.
Very different. I thought that was interesting that I don't know that I've ever seen a man sit and dawdle over his food. Seen women do it, but I guess men do too. And then several of them got bulimia, where they would binge and throw up. Very natural reaction because you suddenly feel so guilty for the binge that you got to get rid of it. Been there, done that. I tried to be a bulimic in college. I failed miserably. It was very difficult for me to make myself throw up. I think I succeeded twice. And then after that, I was like, this is so not worth it. I hate throwing up. Anyway.
That's good.
Yeah, I guess that was a blessing.
Yeah.
And then, one man actually reported having a complete loss of willpower, ate several cookies, sack of popcorn, and 2 bananas. And he was upset about that. And then another one just like got an attitude, and they said he flagrantly broke the dietary rules and ate several sundaes, malted milks, and even stole candy. And you know what? That was when I was in 6th grade. I stole from our school candy store a lot. And it was because it was the food. It's like I needed it so badly emotionally. And after 6th grade, I went and paid all that back and had a come to Jesus moment and all that. But it was that desperation. And it's interesting. I never have stolen anything else in my life, but that year I did a lot. And then exercising deliberately to obtain more food. Man, that was like my life in Weight Watchers. That's why I exercised, so that I could eat more food, right? And it's interesting. I just got through. This is why I look so beautiful right now. I just got through walking on the treadmill and doing some stretching. And since I've stopped weighing myself and have stopped, trying to do the diet thing, it's interesting how my entire view of exercise is completely different. Now I forget to look at how many calories I've burned. I don't even care. And I don't even think about looking at it. And really, for me, it's become more about like physical strength. Like, can I do what I need to do? And will I be able to when I'm my mom's age? And like I was laying in bed the other day and my heart rate seemed kind of fast. And I was like, I need to get back to doing more walking because my heart's not, I got to exercise for my heart and that kind of stuff. That completely changed since I stopped worrying about what other people are telling me to do. Feel free to just jump in here if you have examples or things you want to talk about. And let's see. Oh, this was interesting that their personalities changed. They said in many cases there was the onset of apathy, irritability, moodiness, and depression. Yeah, interesting, huh? During the refeeding period, blah, blah, blah. Okay, when they were allowed to eat at will. I love this, and this is why I sent you that little text after we talked, because it was interesting to see that it took them all about 5 months to get back to normal. And so, which is kind of cool because that was 1 month shorter than what they had dieted, right?
Yeah.
Usually, I think the idea is that it usually takes us a little longer. But maybe because these people were psychobiologically healthy, maybe they were quicker at getting back to it. I don't know. And also, they didn't live in our world that's completely obsessed with diets and being skinny.
Right.
But interesting. And their hunger pains were more intense. They had a harder time feeling satisfied. Their weekend binges added up to 8,000 to 10,000 extra calories. And I actually relate to that. I've heard people in the past gasp when somebody says how much calories a binge can have. And I'm like, okay, then you don't binge, because if you knew what a real binge was, that's not hard to do, actually. When you figure one piece of cheesecake is about 1,000 calories, that's not hard to do in a weekend. Anyway, and then I put in here in all caps in my notes, it's important to remember that during this study, there were no celebrity trainers, no TV Food Network, no fitness and food divas. Nutrition research had just barely even started. And yet they had the exact same experience that everybody else has.
Yep.
So very, very interesting.
Yeah.
So how would you say, what did you relate to most about this particular study?
The obsessing about food and the beating myself up for not following the rules.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely relate to that too. Um, it goes on to talk about the primal hunger on page 61. And I thought it was interesting that they bring up orphans and people who have had problems with being hungry all the time. And you hear about, I know somebody who adopted some kids from another country, and those kids had been in an orphanage where they'd been hungry a lot. And it took them years and years of feeling safe before they would stop hiding food under their bed.
Wow.
Even though they had an endless supply in the kitchen, they just couldn't get over that anxiety and fear that somehow it would stop. Even if logically they knew it, that it would always be there, but they couldn't emotionally accept that.
Wow.
And do you ever find, I ask this because I relate to this. Have you ever had that feeling that hunger brings on kind of a fear? Any kind of fear?
I don't think so.
It's interesting because I feel that sometimes, and I'm not sure why, because I've never gone without food a day in my life unless it was voluntarily. So I've never had that experience of an orphan or a concentration camp victim. And yet once in a while, and I honestly think it's from my years of dieting. I get that feeling of hunger, and it almost would build up kind of a franticness in me. Like if I don't take care of this, it won't get taken care of somehow. And so when I was thinking more clear, I'd be like, why would I suddenly feel that way? Why would hunger make me feel frantic, like I'm not going to get what I need, when I've never not had what I needed? Yeah, interesting. And yeah, there is something about that hunger that I think can, and I don't know, maybe it's biological, maybe it's that feeling of we need food, so our body's saying feed me, feed me, feed me. And maybe I overreact to that, I don't know. But I actually had to work on being comfortable with hunger. And that's why fasting was hard for me for years and years and years. Like the majority of my adult life until probably a few years ago, fasting felt almost impossible because hunger just made me feel crazy. And so I had to really work at being comfortable with being hungry. So, interesting. That's interesting that you've never felt that too. We're all so different, huh? And what affects us. Okay, let's see. So they go through a little list here still on page 61 about, this primal hunger. And they talk about when anybody goes without food, it kind of breaks. And so you think about how this applies to when we're in incessant dieting, it breaks down social behavior. People stop cooperating together. People lose personal pride, and they'll even break down family ties when they're really, really hungry. It's just all about getting the food. And one of the things I thought was interesting, it talks about how socially isolated people become on a diet. And I'm curious if that's something that ever affected you. Did you ever say like, oh, I'm on a diet, I'm not going to that party, it'll be too hard?
I don't remember not going, but I felt left out at lots of things.
I think that was me too. I don't remember not going, but I always felt like I didn't fit in.
Yeah.
Or either I felt weird, like, I'm the only one not doing this, or I would lose it and eat it and then feel guilty. And then it would take me 3 more days to get back on what I was doing. Right. I was always trying to fix something that would fit in my plan, so I'd have something to eat.
Me too.
Right? Which is not that that's a bad thing to do, but it for me, it triggered the deprivation thing again.
Yeah.
Right. So I go to a Christmas party and all my favorite Christmas foods are there, and I get to eat this one safe dessert that I brought. That's, that's really not as good as all the other stuff that's on the table that I really want to have, And
I would get angry. I can't have it. I just was mad.
Yeah. You really feel that like a kid who somebody's telling you can't do something. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Resentful. Maybe is a good word for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I felt too. And I think that's why at some point I would eat it. not only to enjoy it, but because it's like, you know, I'm a grown adult. I can choose what I want. And I don't know. And if I didn't do it at the party, if I made it all the way through the party and felt really good about myself or whatever that situation was, it usually wasn't very long before I chose to overeat, because that feeling of, yeah, I'm proud of myself. And yet the deprivation just built and built and built and built until
Yeah.
at some point it was like, I don't care. I'm going to do what I want to do. And then you
I
feel
would,
guilty.
yeah. I would do that when I wasn't eating sugar. I would find other things that were okay to eat. So
Yeah.
binge on chips and, all that other kind of stuff. But it didn't have any sugar. So that was
Yeah. So
okay.
it must be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
It's,
gotta have something.
yeah. And if you're like me, usually I would end up turning to the sugar eventually anyway, because I'd be looking for something that would like make me feel better. And I'd try that, and that wasn't what I really wanted. So then I'd try the next thing. That wasn't really what I wanted. I'd go back and forth and back and forth. And finally I'd be like, well, I've already eaten way more than I should anyway now. So I'm just going to go ahead and eat that and get it out of the way. And then I won't want it anymore. I'll get that kind of craving out of the way. And
Yeah.
I'd go ahead and eat it. So then I ate 4 times more than I would
Yeah.
have if I just enjoyed it first place. So this is one thing that it's so hard to explain to people, even some of my own family members. It's like, no, this is about this. This really isn't about keeping track of, what you eat and how much you weigh and all that. It really is about changing your whole thought process about food.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. Um, I thought they gave one example that wasn't that exciting about the woman who only ever felt extreme hunger because she was dieting all the time and had to really learn to recognize the little triggers of hunger that come along. And we'll talk about that a little bit, but when they talked about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and food is right there at the top. We
Yeah.
have to have food. And when we start having that feeling like somebody's taking it away from us or we can't have it, there's really that mind-body connection. And so people think it's willpower, but it's really our biology saying, no, you gotta do this. You gotta have this. Yeah. And then I thought it was interesting. They go into some of the studies and things about how fasting and restricting is actually counterintuitive to appetite, because it actually turns on the switch that makes us want to eat. So I thought that was fascinating. And they talk about the mental and physical switches that get turned on, not just mental, not, oh, you can't have this, so that's all you want, but there's actually physical things going on saying, no, you need to eat, you need to eat, you need to eat. And we're going to make it harder and harder and harder for you until you give in and eat.
Yeah.
Whenever my family has family dinner together, we do it on the first Sunday of the month. So we like to have dinner as early as possible because it's fascinating. Right? On a normal day, you're like, yeah, we can eat dinner 6, 7 o'clock at night. Fast Sunday night, 3 o'clock, we're having dinner. Anyway, funny. Let's see. Yep, I'm just looking at that same thing there. Oh, yeah, heightened digestion. I thought that was interesting. And then how did you feel about that section on the neural peptide Y, the MPY stuff, and how it makes you crave carbs?
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
that section? Yeah, it says when we go without food, when we don't eat when we're hungry, our body just increases those in our system. And it says it increases the size and duration of your carbohydrate-rich meals, right? And they can prove it with animals, rats, people, whatever, that when we go without carbs, our body's like, okay, you have to eat more carbs at the next meal because it knows that you need to. And then if you don't at the next meal, it just keeps building up and building up.
Yeah.
It says it's high in the morning, which totally makes sense because your liver can only store, I think they said, 6 hours or something of carbs. So as soon as you get up, your body's like, okay, you need to eat something. And if you don't, they say that's when you're likely to have the really strong carb cravings later in the day. Mm-hmm. So I highlighted that because I wanted to know if that was true for you too. For me, absolutely. I could stick to my diet for breakfast and lunch, no problem. Mm-hmm. And then by about 2 p.m, I was like, screw this. Yeah. Exactly the same for you too.
Yep, yep, that's
Yeah.
exactly the time.
Yeah, and for some reason breakfast is easy to
Oh
skip.
yeah.
You know, you haven't gotten moving yet, and yeah, very, very true.
I didn't skip breakfast a whole lot, but I could always eat something healthy.
Yes, I didn't skip, but I would eat something,
Yeah,
small, healthy, acceptable.
yeah,
And if I got busy working, then I'd still eat lunch, but it was easier to keep it small and
yeah,
controlled. And then, like I said, about 2, 3 in the afternoon, I'm in big trouble.
yeah,
And then you just keep going all night long. Then you're convinced you're going to start again tomorrow, right?
yep,
And we just keep doing it again.
yep.
Um, so this part is fascinating to me, this whole importance of carbs that starts on page 64. And the reason why it's fascinating to me is because of this huge keto diet thing that's going on right now. In fact, I'm really kind of sick of hearing about the keto diet, in all honesty. Everybody I know seems to be convinced that it's like the greatest thing that ever happened.
So bad.
Yeah, well, when you study it, it just can't work long term, right?
Yeah,
It does. If all you're worried about is what the scale says, it will work for a while, you know. But I like this explanation of it. It says carbs are definitely the gold standard, and there are certain things in your body, especially your brain and your nervous system, that can't work on anything but carbs. They
right.
can't. So they will find them in your body wherever they have to, and cannibalize yourself in order
Yeah,
to get those carbs.
yeah.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And even, when it says that it will take the protein from your muscles, that still won't feed the brain and stuff. It has to find the carbs.
Hmm.
Thought that was really interesting. And talks about the insulin and the glucagon. Oh, that's where I read about that the liver stores between 3 to 6 hours of glucose, and that you definitely have to have it when you get up in the morning. But this is the part that people don't get. They said, eating a high protein diet is not going to stop the problem, because it is getting diverted for fuel. It won't even go into building up your body. And they gave that good example of if you're building a house and they're framing it out of wood, and every time they deliver wood, you burn it for fuel, then you're never getting the house built. Your house is going to be built on a really shaky foundation. And people forget that your heart is a muscle, your lungs are muscles, your organs are muscles.
Yeah.
And so it's not just that you're losing your arm muscle. And then a lot of people I know justify the fact that, well, I'm exercising a ton, I'm actually increasing in muscle. I can feel the increased muscle in my arms, I'm increasing, and that's great. You're not stopping it from cannibalizing your heart and your lungs and your, everything else. So we tend to work so surface. And then it said that only 5% of stored fat can be converted to carbohydrate fuel. But the body has lots of enzymes that will convert protein into glucose. So it can do that all day long, but it can only burn so much fat into carbohydrates because it runs out of the enzymes that it needs to do that. So I thought that was interesting. And then it explains, we've talked about before how, in fact, I need to look up this exact number again. For every gram, for every gram of protein or muscle that you have, it has to be surrounded by, I think it's 9 grams of water. That's what sticks in my head from my college days. And so every time it cannibalizes 1 gram of protein, you lose 9 grams of water.
Wow.
And that's why you pee a ton, and that's why you lose a ton of weight. So your body's literally cannibalizing protein, and you're losing a ton of water weight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. So they said for each, the study here says for each pound of body protein, you lose 3 to 4 pounds of water. Right? So you lose 5 pounds, 1 of that was protein and 4 of it was water.
Mm-hmm.
And none of it was fat, in that case. Liver, heart, and lungs are being devoured for energy. And then this is the definition of ketosis, which is exactly what the keto diet is. Eventually, the body can convert stored fat to a usable form of energy for the brain and nervous system called ketones. And that's everything keto diet is based on. It says ketosis is an adaptation for prolonged fasting and carbohydrate deprivation. So they have to do it for a while for that to kick in. And then only half of the brain cells can use these compounds for energy. And the body continues to burn vital protein in order to supply glucose to nervous system cells that cannot use ketones as fuel. So that's just how it is. And then adequate carbohydrates are important. That's kind of the whole point of that. So for me, the ketones is the current diet that irritates me because it's the current extreme thing that's not really based on good science. And plus, I wonder how long could you do it? Even if it worked, how long could you do it?
Yeah.
I don't think I could do it very long. I like my carbs.
Yeah.
Okay, and then they talk about second guessing your biology, right? The woman who gets mad because she eats a bigger breakfast after she goes running in the morning. So then she's like, okay, now I can't eat lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And you just kind of set yourself up. And they say the biggest problems with denying hunger at any time for any reason is that it usually crescendos into where you finally overeat. And the other thing is when you ignore your hunger signals, they do tend to fade. And so people are like, well, I'm just not near as hungry anymore. Yeah, they tend to fade. And then we can only hear when it gets to extreme hunger. Then we're just like, okay, I'm really hungry now. I have to eat. But your body is still doing all those side effects of, yeah, we're in starvation mode. We're going to slow down the metabolism. We're going to make you want to eat more. So anyway, really interesting. So how hard is it for you? I would say generally, because it's going to change moment by moment, but how hard is it for you to wait for hunger to eat?
It's hard.
It can be really hard.
It's getting easier, but it's still hard.
So
I don't want to wait.
Go ahead.
I don't want to wait. I just want to eat.
Mm-hmm. And so right now we're kind of on the other side of this story. So this is talking about how don't wait past hunger to eat. And we're saying, yeah, we believe in that, but I don't want to wait for hunger to eat.
Right.
And that I would say is more emotional, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, those are the emotional reasons we want to eat.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that food is doing for us when we eat before we're hungry? Just name some.
Numbing, so we don't have to deal with it. Everyone else is doing it.
Yeah, numbing, being socially acceptable, right?
Mm-hmm. Still, I don't want to miss out on it.
Don't want to miss out, absolutely.
Even though I know that I'm not in starvation mode.
Mm-hmm.
I still have that feeling, like, especially if it's, homemade or something that is not available all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like,
yeah. Also, filling in space. Sometimes I'm just bored. I don't want to do what I need to do, and eating sounds much more fun.
Yeah.
Or
when I'm in a hurry, I still don't understand that one. That one just makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
If I'm in a hurry, I don't have time to eat. So why do I want to eat?
But don't you think when you're in a hurry, there's other feelings going too? Like sometimes when you're in a hurry, you're feeling overwhelmed. You feel like you have too much to do. You're feeling, right?
Yeah.
And so there's all those other feelings mixed in with it. And none of us like to be crammed for time.
Yeah.
Right. But then on the other side, we'll say we're bored and we want to eat.
Yep.
I mean, we can find a reason just about any time,
Yep.
So what's the latest time you can think of where one of those took place?
Last night.
Okay, which one was it, you think?
It was a combination of, everybody else is doing it, and I don't know how long it's going to be there. Because it was, but it wasn't in like a social situation. It was last night. We got home from the party. I already had cake. I had plenty. I was satisfied. But we had a plate of cookies on the counter, and I was fine. Didn't have any. But after everybody went to bed, I went out and there was more gone. I'm like, everybody's eating the cookies. Like, I need to get some because if I don't, then they're gonna be gone. So
Total competition. Right?
Yeah.
There is competition sometimes for food. I mean, I grew up in that atmosphere. 3 brothers and I'm the baby. And you don't eat it, you're not getting it.
Yeah.
And It's interesting. At my house, they disappeared the minute. Like I have a vivid memory of my mom making homemade chocolate chip cookies, and I remember the minute she opened the oven and was pulling them out, we were like vultures around. You don't even wait till they're cool enough to enjoy. And yeah, I would go to my friend's house, and I remember they would have cookies in their cookie jar all the time, and they never wanted them.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, whatever. But they were there constantly. And I would always be like, that's all I could think of is they got cookies in there. That's all I want. And then I'm trying to find ways of going, well, I'm kind of hungry. Are you hungry? And I'm trying to find ways to get the cookies. And they could have cared less if they were around. But it's interesting because they were always around. They could care less. I have a sister-in-law who is obsessed with baking, and she's an extremely good baker. When she brings things to our house, they're gone instantly. At her house, her kids could care less, and her kids are really thin and everything because it's constantly there. They know they can have it anytime they want. So how do we deal with that? Especially this month. This month, we're about to be surrounded by tons of good food that either we don't know how to make, don't want to make, or they only sell it in the store this time of year, or it's going to be at a party that somebody else brings it. So how are we going to deal with that in a way that we feel at peace with our choices?
Well, I think first of all, I need to be aware of my emotions when I want it. Why do I want this? Am I really hungry, or what's happening there?
And are there other reasons to eat sometimes? I mean, not everybody who's an intuitive eater always waits till they're hungry to eat something.
Yeah.
Right? And they give the classic example of, if you're getting married and it's time to eat the cake, you're not like, am I really hungry right now?
Right. Or you're going to the play and it's from 6 to 9 or 7. Yeah. So I get that. When it's
so there's times and there's times you might just want to eat it for taste, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
The problem is when we lie to ourselves about why we want it. And I have used that as an excuse a million times but you know what? I'm an intuitive eater and I don't have to be that rigid about things. And so then I find myself eating and I'm lying to myself about why I'm eating something. And then later on I go like, okay, yeah, really, that wasn't the right reason. What if we could come up with a question? I'm trying, and I don't have this perfect answer. This is just coming off my head. What if we came up with a perfect question that could help us distinguish a little faster? What's coming into my head is something like, again, I'm making this up as I go, so help me think through it. Something like, how or what would make me enjoy that the most? So my daughter made some cookies yesterday afternoon, and then we went to dinner at my sister-in-law's house. We didn't bring the cookies. When we came home, she really wanted me to try one of the cookies. Well, I had eaten a little too much at my sister-in-law's house, and I wasn't stuffed, but I was full. And she's like, yeah, you want to try one of these cookies right now? And normally I would have just said yes, because I would want her to feel good that I tried one of her cookies. But I was just like, I'm not going to enjoy that. I'll be doing it totally to make her happy, and I honestly will not enjoy that right now. And I thought, if I just waited till tomorrow, maybe, I don't usually like sugar first thing in the morning, but I love it later after lunch. But I thought if I just had one of those after lunch tomorrow, I would probably really enjoy it. And this all happened like a split second. Mm-hmm. So I just finally told her, and she's 19. It's not like she can't handle it if I say I'm not hungry. Yeah. And I just said to her, you know what? I just won't enjoy it right now. But will you save me a few of them? Take the rest home, but save me a few because I want one tomorrow. And she's like, really? You don't just want to bite? And I was like, honestly, I'm just a little too full from dinner. But I really do want one. So yeah, put like 5 on this plate over here for us tomorrow, and you take the rest home. And I really didn't want it because at that moment I recognized I will not actually enjoy this. And today I definitely will have one of them, probably after lunch, because that's when I will enjoy it the most. So I'm wondering, maybe there are times when you're not hungry where you would enjoy it the most right then, right? Everybody's around, we're having this thing, I'm not too full, it's not going to make me miserable, and I choose to have it, right?
Yeah.
And then there's other times when you're like, I'm eating this in a hurry because I don't want to do my work. I want, whatever. We can say, is this the way I'm going to enjoy this the most?
Yeah.
I just wonder if a question like that would help me be in a different atmosphere. Like for me to enjoy something the most, I have to actually be tasting it. So I can't do something else, which, can I tell you, that's one of the hardest things for me.
I
have a hard time stopping just to eat.
Yeah.
I have to force myself. That's real. I want to multitask really badly.
Me too. And the reason why I want to is because I eat so fast. I don't want to sit there and scarf it down. I want to like be at my computer, so I'll take my time more. I'll do some work and then I'll take another bite.
Oh, interesting. And I think if you were to do that and stop what you were doing, focus on the bite, enjoy it, taste it till it's gone, and then keep working, that would probably work okay. My problem is I want to eat while I'm reading a chapter of a book. I want to answer my emails while I'm eating. I want to watch a game with Ken while I'm eating. And and inevitably I am learning, and I don't like to admit it because I don't like this, but I can't focus on both. And so then I find I'm done eating and I missed half of it, at least, even if I'm trying. So I really am forcing myself to, okay, yeah, get my breakfast, sit here, enjoy my breakfast, even if it's just for 10 minutes, and then go do something else. And for me, that is like telling a kid to, sit down and eat their broccoli. It's really hard for me to do.
Yeah, I agree.
But yet I know it works. It works big time. And I do enjoy it more. So that's kind of one of the things I'm trying to ask myself. Okay, here's a lunch I really like. I want it. I've got my favorite thing right now. And I'm craving going to read a book while I eat it. But then I have to ask myself, how will I enjoy it most? If I read the book while I'm doing it, I might enjoy the book, but I will miss eating it. So I'm going to force myself to sit here and actually enjoy the food. And then I'll go read my book. But that's one of those things that's really ingrained in me, multitasking. But I suck at it, so I don't enjoy my food. It's really true. So one of the things that I'm going to do this week to focus on in enhancing all of this experience, but especially on am I hungry or not, is ask myself, I think that's a question I'm going to ask myself, will this be the way that I can enjoy it most, or is there a different way I can enjoy this more? Whatever that entails, whether that means waiting a little while till I'm hungrier, or whether it means eating it now and sitting down and focusing on it, or whether it means, oh man, I really want this, but I'm getting full, so I'll wait till later to eat it again. I don't know. Yeah. What are your thoughts this week on the things you want to accomplish? What are your
I don't know. I kind of feel like I say I'm going to do something and then I just
don't do it,
or forget about it. Yeah.
I get that, because you're a little distracted.
Yeah.
You have a lot going on.
Yeah, but this is important and I want to do it, so I should, make it a priority.
Well, and it can add some greater enjoyment in your life, some greater fulfillment, greater happiness, right? And then we're always seeking for that. So let's pick a goal that's doable. It doesn't have to be, all 35 times that I feel hungry this week, I will do X, Y, and Z. What's something that you can do that will contribute to your happiness this week?
I don't know. Can you give me some ideas?
Well, how are you doing on connecting spiritually?
What do you mean?
On doing the things that bring you peace spiritually. Are you connecting with Heavenly Father? Are you spending time to focus on those things?
Yes.
Good. Good. That's excellent. How about the very next meal you have today? When do you expect that to be, probably?
Probably around 12:30.
Okay, so in a couple hours from now, right? And what will the situation be? Will you be home by yourself? Are you going out somewhere
I was actually thinking about going to the office.
and getting some work done
So,
there?
yeah.
So would you
So,
be eating lunch there or no?
um, I don't know. I would either eat before I go or I'd take it with me.
Okay, so what if you made a goal that your lunch experience today will be as satisfying as you can possibly make it?
Okay.
I mean, that's just an example. Or maybe you just say, one meal today, I'm going to focus on it. I'm just going to figure out how can I make this as enjoyable as possible.
How about I'll do that with dinner? We're gonna go to our friend's house.
Okay,
I'm making her dinner, and I told her I'm bringing you dinner, and she's like, "Well, why don't you stay here and eat it with us?" Okay, that'll be fun.
nice.
So instead of scarfing it down and not even knowing what I'm eating, I'll pay attention to what I'm eating and the conversation that we're having and enjoy the company.
Okay, I'm writing this down because I'm going to ask you how it goes later.
Okay.
So we're going to pay attention to the conversation. What else can you do to make it the most enjoyable possible?
I can enjoy the food that I'm eating and pay attention to it and not just scarf it down.
Okay, so you're going to pay attention to the conversation. You're going to pay attention to the taste.
Yes.
What else can you do to make it the most enjoyable possible?
Not stuff myself.
Okay, so you're going to stop before you get physically miserable,
Yeah.
right? Physically uncomfortable, I'll say.
Okay.
What else can you do?
Um, I don't know.
Would it help if you went a little hungry?
Yes.
Okay. What level of hungry is a good level where you're going to really enjoy it rather than being starving to death when you get there?
Yeah. Um, just I don't know how to describe it. Just a little
A
bit
little
hungry.
hungry?
Yeah.
A little hungry,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, not so much you're starving. If you're going to be starving, get something else to eat as a snack before.
Yeah.
But a little hungry makes it so you can really enjoy the food without being obsessed with being hungry, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's see what else. What are you fixing for dinner? Is it going to be something you like?
Hmm.
Okay, so you can fix food that you really like.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one way you can enjoy it. Sometimes people will focus on the surroundings of how they eat it, how they set the table, what kind of dishes they use. Do they care if it's on paper or does it feel better if it's on a nice plate? Now you're at somebody else's house, so I don't know how
Yeah.
much you can control that, but that's one thing you can think about when you're saying, how can I most make this an enjoyable experience? Truth is,
Normally, I don't care about that.
yeah, sometimes I don't, and sometimes I do. I don't care if I'm eating off a paper plate most of the time,
Yeah.
but sometimes, okay, here's something that does bother me. I hate eating with a plastic fork. I do. I'll do it if I have to, and it's not a big deal. But if I'm choosing a home, I would never, ever choose a plastic fork. I think that just feels bleh. I like a real fork. Isn't that dumb? But to me, that makes a difference. So that makes it more enjoyable to me. So pay attention to those little things that make it more enjoyable for you, and then be like, okay, I'm just going to do that little thing,
Okay.
whatever it is. Those are some of the basics, right? Enjoying your friends. That's awesome. Paying attention to the taste of the food, kind of like we talked about before. You can take a bite, really enjoy the food, and then go back to enjoying your friends. And when it's time to take a bite, focus on the food for a second. Stop before you're uncomfortable. Go there a little bit hungry and fix food that you really like. I mean, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things you can do.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So tell me how it goes at the end.
Okay.
Report back. And if it goes well, maybe, jot a note down somewhere or in a journal or wherever you want, maybe in the book, I don't know, of how did you feel? How much did you enjoy it? Did it make a big difference? Did it not make a big difference? What made the biggest difference? And see if it helps make you want to do any of those things again.
Okay.
Because we do things naturally that we enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
We don't like to do things that we feel like we should do.
Right.
I should wait till I'm hungry. Oh, I should stop because I've had enough. Nobody cares about that. That's not even fun. But if we say, you know what, I really enjoyed that a lot more. That's the only reason I'm forcing myself right now to stop doing other things when I'm eating. Because every time I've done it, I go, okay, I really did enjoy that food a lot more. So it makes me want to do it again, even though that's hard for me. Right. But all of us hate doing stuff we should do.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm really proud of you. You got a lot on your plate, no pun intended. And you're doing really well.
Thanks.
I hope you know that.
Yeah.
You don't, do you?
Well, I do. There's another thing that I didn't tell you about that I need some like separate coaching on.
What's that?
It's the beating myself up and like
that's not separate coaching. That's all part of this.
Lately, well, we don't have time for this, but just
do lately, you have time? Because I'm okay.
Yeah, I guess so. I need to be somewhere by 10:45. So
okay, I'm totally fine. Whatever. Yeah, I'm okay.
All right. Okay, so here's a whole nother thing. So for instance, yesterday, we were having this birthday party. My sister-in-law was kind of in charge of it, so she gave out all the assignments and everything. But then she and my brother-in-law went out of town until the day before the party. So my sister-in-law and I were talking a few days before the party. She wanted to change the time. Okay, great, let's change the time. Well, nobody told the brother-in-law whose house it was at that we changed the time.
Oh no.
So yesterday at church, we were there and saw them, and they were like, okay, we gotta go home to make the bread. So they left church early to go home and make bread because they were thinking it was earlier and it was later, and it didn't even cross my mind to be like, why are you leaving early? If we're having the party at 5, you don't need to leave early didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah.
So I get a text later, what happened? Nobody told us about the time change. You guys are going to have cold bread. I'm like, so then I go into, I can't remember anything. I am a jerk. All that stuff. And then Derek called me and I missed his call. And then I'm thinking, oh my gosh, now Dusty's calling Derek and Derek's wondering what happened and why I didn't tell him. And that wasn't even it. He didn't even know anything about it. He was just calling to see what the plan was. And he was having a great day. He's like, hey, how are you doing? I'm like, I've been crying for the last 10 minutes. I didn't tell him that, but so, and that seems like that happens a lot lately, the forgetting things all the time and beating myself up.
Okay. Well, I relate to that 100%. I used to do it constantly. And that comes from the beliefs we have about ourselves, right? Those are just those deep down beliefs about ourselves. So if you could pinpoint what the belief is that was totally being bought into at that moment, what would you say it was?
Well, the thoughts I was having was, I can't believe I did that. I can't remember anything. I am stupid. I can't do anything right. Everyone's going to be mad at me because I, didn't do what I said I would do or didn't let anybody know. It's going to be all my fault. So are those beliefs or are those steps that lead me to what the belief is?
Well, I would say those are definitely beliefs. To believe you're stupid, that's a belief, right? Okay. And I mean, and you can go deeper. You can say, you know, well, why do I believe that forgetting to tell somebody something would make me stupid? Right? Or why did I, for me, I used to overreact and do those kinds of, go into that kind of a tirade on myself. And
Mm-hmm.
I found it was because I had this fear that if I did anything wrong, then people would leave me. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And beating yourself up is kind of a way of preventing it from happening again. If I just beat myself up enough, I'll never forget to do that again, because I don't want people mad at me. Right? So maybe you can ask yourself, you know, if people are mad at me, then that means what?
If people are mad at me, um,
What does it mean about you?
people are mad at me. I don't know.
For me, it was that fear that they won't love me, or, you know, they don't want to be around me,
Oh, okay.
that kind of stuff. You ever feel like that? Or is that, I mean, it doesn't mean it's going to be the same as mine.
Um, I don't know.
So maybe just think about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let me think. Okay, so I was thinking that Gina and Dusty would be mad at me. And I was thinking it would be uncomfortable when
Mm-hmm.
I saw them. And what I would say, and the things that I were thinking that they were thinking about me. Um, hmm. I don't I don't think I feel like they won't love me anymore. But I think I feel like the same thing I think about myself, like they're gonna think I'm stupid, or they're gonna think that I can't remember anything, or they can't rely on me, or
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and kind of that belief that we have to be perfect for some reason,
yes,
right? I have to
so
be
bad,
perfect for people to
so
like me,
bad.
want to be around me, not be mad at me. You know, we have this very deep sense now. I mean, do you know anybody who doesn't forget things?
No.
I mean, there isn't. Logically, we know that. And especially you've had a lot on your mind this week,
Mhm.
a lot on your mind. And the more we're preoccupied with things, the more other stuff just slips, right? Was it your job to tell them that things had changed?
I don't know.
See, that's just it. Who knows?
Yeah.
It just slipped through the cracks. It's a bunch of well-meaning adults who would never in a million years not mean to. I mean, you would never say, I know we're having it this your house, but I don't care if you know what time it is.
Right.
Right? Not one of you would have purposely done that. Right?
Right.
Now, then that would make you a jerk. If you purposely said, I know it's his house, but let's not tell him time, then yes, you're a jerk. Other than that, you're all normal human beings that probably thought somebody else told them, or it just didn't dawn on you, and life goes on, right? So logically we know that, but it tends to trigger this overreaction inside when we feel like, when we already believe I'm a loser, when we already believe I'm so stupid, it just comes back immediately. All right, any excuse throws that right to the surface of our argument. I'm an idiot. See, I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
And everything seems to prove that when we feel like we're stupid, or we feel like we are less than somehow. And yet when we feel like we're just as good as everybody else and we're just normal people and they're normal people, how do you think what would have gone through your head then?
That it's okay. Everybody forgets things. They're not going to be mad at me because they probably forget things too. It's okay.
I mean, and you still would have thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot that. right? I mean, it's amazing sometimes the things we forget. Or you could be like, I didn't even know I was supposed to be the one to tell you that. I should have asked. I'm so sorry. But we would have skipped the part of, I am so stupid. What is wrong with me? How come I can't do anything right? Why,
Yeah.
right? But we look for proof of how we feel about ourselves in everything around us. And we react that way. And I know, because I'm the queen. That's why I went back to therapy the last time, is because I was like, I am overreacting to everything. Like, I am freaking out over the littlest things. And it's interesting. You kind of have to challenge each of those beliefs every time. Are you an idiot? No, you do a lot of smart things. You're quite capable of many things. So we know for a fact you're not an idiot. That's just a fact. And the next time the thought comes into your head, I'm an idiot, challenge it. Okay, no, I'm not an idiot. Did I forget something? Maybe. I don't even remember if I was supposed to tell him that, right? So how can I take the responsibility? How can I show that I am able to respond to this? How can I respond? Okay, what were your choices in responding?
When I first found out that they didn't know about the time. Well, like you said, I don't know if that was my responsibility or not to tell you.
Yeah, just apologize first, right? That's something you could do to respond. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and that's what I did.
Yeah, and I'm sure you did, because you would never be like, well, I don't care if you didn't know. Sucks to you, right? So of course you apologize. And how upset were they?
Via texting, it seemed like he was upset. So that's
well, and texting comes across different too.
Yes.
Right. You don't.
When I got there, I apologized again. I said, sorry, it's okay. And then when I talked to my sister-in-law, Gina, she was like, it's okay. I forget things all the time. She said, you have all these things. And she listed all these things, that we have on our minds. And she said, it's okay. So,
yeah. So in reality, it wasn't the end of the world, right? It's not like you forgot the code to the nuclear bomb or anything like that, And you can also say, oh man, next time I better ask, who's telling so-and-so? Am I supposed to tell them? There's little things you can do to be more clear on who is supposed to do it next time or whatever and make it better. I have forgotten some of the stupidest things on the planet. I have had dates to meet somebody for something. I don't even remember what it is at the moment, but I do remember that I remembered 5 minutes before I was going to leave, 5 minutes. And I was ready to do that and did not think about it again for 8 hours.
I've done that.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, how did I forget that? I was ready to go. And then it started going, I need to have a CAT scan.
Yeah. No. Derek is concerned. He's like, there's something wrong. Is this early onset of Alzheimer's? And I'm like, no, according to everyone else, they're like this too. So that's another thing, is he remembers things and I don't. And so again, I'm stupid and he's not. So I was trying to talk to myself yesterday thinking we make a great team. He remembers things and so he can help me. But it's when it's things that are my responsibility, then, and he has to remember for me, then I think, that's my job. Because he complains all day long. He's, babysitting his subs all day long and telling him how to do their job. And the last thing I want him to do is come home and have to feel like he has to babysit me.
Okay, well, let's figure out other ways he doesn't have to babysit you then. I mean, the truth is, and scientists have proven this over and over, we have so much capacity to think about stuff during a day, right? And if a ton of that is taken up with, how do I deal with my mother-in-law who's dying and my son who's rebelling and the ambulance who's now going to cost us a fortune, that's a big chunk of your brain that's constant. Even if you're not thinking about it at the moment, there's this background going on that's like, oh, okay, how are we going to solve this? How are we going to solve this? How are we going to solve this? And you're trying to go about your day, but you know what? There's just a lot of stuff. In fact, they actually say there's a limit to how many questions you can answer in a day, how many problems you can solve in a day. And after that, your brain's just like, I'm done. And haven't you felt that? You get to the end of the day and you're like, not one more thing. I can't. I can't handle one more thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes those things just slip through the cracks. So for me, this is my brain.
Yeah.
This is absolutely my brain. I cannot tell you how often I will grab Siri and say, Siri, remind me to take my pill when I get home. And then it knows when I pull in my driveway, I'm home, and it says, take your pill. I'm like, oh yeah, I would have forgot to take my pill. And on the first of every month, it tells me, change the filter in the furnace and give the dog his anti-worm medication, right? Because I cannot for the life of me remember everything.
Right.
So I have a million reminders set, and every Wednesday night it tells me to take the garbage out, and it's my brain, because I can't remember everything I have to remember. Nobody can.
Right.
So you just say, okay, what's important? What's a way I can remind myself? You can use your smartphone. You can put up a sticky note somewhere. You can, there's all sorts of things you can do, but you're not stupid. And just because you're preoccupied with 1,000 other things, and to be quite honest with you, I think men don't struggle with that as much because they compartmentalize everything, and they do not think about multiple things at a time. And that's been proven too, right? So when they're dealing with X problem, they will open the drawer that has X problem in it. They will deal with X problem. And when X problem is done, they will shut that drawer in their head, and they will go to work, and they will think about work, and they will not even think about this over here ever until it's necessary. And when work's done, they'll shut that drawer, and then they think about this thing, right? But women are totally, completely different than that. We have to be thinking about this and this and this and this. And that's why we're good at, when you go on a trip and you have to do all the laundry, or there'll be nothing to pack, and you have to clean the house, or it'll be a disaster when you get home, and you have to clear out the fridge because it'll all be moldy when you get back. And you have to make sure that there's food for so-and-so who's not going on the trip because, and my husband has never, ever, ever thought about any of that, ever. All he thinks about is, I got to pack my clothes. And they're miraculously in the drawer, right? He doesn't know how they got miraculously in the drawer. They're just there. And he can think about the one thing he has to think about. But they say that's why women are so good at raising kids, because we can think about, okay, I have to take care of this, and they have to be fed. And, oh, by the way, don't let them fall down the stairs. And, we can think about 20 things at the same time. That's just how we're wired. So maybe he's capable of putting his mother's death on the back burner when he's at work, and you're not.
Yeah. It
doesn't make you less than or stupid. It just means that your brain is working differently than his. So don't beat yourself up. You're an amazing person, and you're doing a really amazing job. But those old voices are going to pop up anytime something triggers it, right? And, even if he says, I'm worried about you, say, oh, stop it. Stop it. My brain is full. Okay. I will find a way to remember it. Don't worry about me, but challenge it, whether it comes out of his mouth or yours.
Okay.
Because that's just that old tape playing in your head that's inaccurate. It's a limiting belief, and it's inaccurate. You got a lot on your plate, girl. I don't know anybody who has if they had the same things on their plate that you did, would not be overwhelmed and forget something as stupid as what time the dinner is.
Yeah.
Right? And nobody's upset with you. It's not even a big deal. Right. But you wasted a lot of time and energy of your own beating yourself up for it when you didn't deserve that.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
So be in your own corner, first of all. And when you find you're not in your corner, be curious about it. Why am I saying I'm stupid just because I didn't know I was supposed to tell somebody about a time?
Okay.
That's interesting. Why does that make me feel stupid? And learn from it, right?
Yeah.
You're doing good. You're doing really good. One day at a time.
Yep.
Okay, so tonight I want to hear how the dinner goes.
Okay.
And not only if you were able to do those things, but if it actually improved your enjoyment of it or not, and be honest.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
All right. And I'm going to have lunch in just a few minutes and go enjoy that cookie afterwards.
Okay.
Hey, if you need anything, you just holler.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.